Good day, everyone. I was thinking, why do another, in the office intro and outro when I can be out here on a beautiful fall day in the city of Atlanta, right? Yesterday's interview went up with Corinna Coffin about the Spartan Games. Today's is with Kris Rugloski. It's not Ruglowski, it is in fact Rugloski. She's going to tell us about her experience at Big Bear at the Spartan Games. Later this week, I'll have Ryan Atkins. Later this week, I'll have a bunch more people. Here comes a guy on a skateboard. While you enjoy this video, I'm going to walk into Starbucks and get a coffee. Away we go. When you got there and saw the competition, and you probably had known who was going to be there, did that affect anything? Like maybe I could beat this girl at this thing, or I'm definitely stronger than these three people, or...
I was definitely not stronger than anyone there. That was definitely not a thought. It was, I mean, I think I'm always kind of coming in with a little bit of definitely a bit of a strength deficit. But I have enough endurance, and I think I'm kind of scrappy enough to where, seeing all the people come in, there's definitely, Lauren Weeks, Corinna Coffin, and Lindsay Webster are going to be those well-rounded, good at everything athletes. We had a CrossFitter, and then Ariana has done trail running and powerlifting. So she kind of had a little bit of both. And then Ariel, she was she's in the Air Force, and I'm not really sure that she's really done a lot of specific sports before. So I would say, I guess she was kind of more the wild card if I'm kind of eyeing the competition. That was one where I was like, I don't know about her. All the others definitely stronger, and but I know I can kind of make my way. But no, all the girls were definitely fit, ready to be there. And yeah, I guess I can't really talk about how anybody did, but it was fun.
No, that's fine. I understand you can't talk about actual results. I understood. I understand that the women got along well, but the men did not. Did I hear that correctly?
I got along like we're friends.
I don't know. I just heard there might have been some shenanigans on the men's side, but you guys all seem to be cool.
No, I would say everybody mostly got along. There's definitely, on the men's side, I would say, the OCR guys kind of know each other, and they're varying levels of friends. I think, if anything, I don't know what you heard, but there was definitely more towards Spartan. There was a bit more disagreement from the guys' side than from the girls' side. The girls were kind of like, yeah, whatever. And some of the guys were definitely a bit more outspoken on points, rules, penalties, all
that kind of thing. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think the girls really agreed anymore. We were just a little quieter. The guys definitely spoke up.
Right. Well, I definitely heard the one thing, and I said before, I think last year I had pretty low expectations of the show.
Yeah.
We were all hearing about, bucket throwing and trash talking, and is this a reality show, and what's that about?
There was no bucket throwing this year.
That's great to hear. And then the show itself, I thought, ended up being done well. There were things that maybe they could have done that, but I heard that the one thing that I think is disappointing, that we'll obviously see more about, is that the wrestling was single elimination, which I think is kind of silly, because it's, you get a bad draw, you get a bad draw. So that seemed not so quote unquote fair, but they had their reasons, I guess.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to make it a shorter event and not spend extra time out there, which was kind of lame. It definitely, I think, a lot of people are like, wrestling shouldn't be a part of the Spartan Games, whatever. It's a pretty, I thought it's kind of like a random addition, but it's definitely, if we're talking about bringing different skill sets, different, a multi-sport thing in, this is a very specific skill set that maybe you, not being strong, not having a lot of cardio endurance, this can be something you're good at. And so I think it's good to have the variety. But yeah, like you said, the single elimination makes it a whole lot. It just really matters who you go against first. And then, yeah, it just kind of, it takes out, it's like and they kind of did this with the tactical games too. It's like they take in this really like unique sport that like is an actual like new skill, and like they introduce it, and then they kind of turn it into a crappy event where it's like, oh, well, it's single elimination. So we were out there for like, I mean, less than an hour maybe, because it was just, one right after the other. And it was like, well, I guess that was that. So.
So you went head to head on the tactical games?
So tactical games, it was a very like shooting was very new. Ryan and Lindsay had never held guns before. I don't know if they've ever seen them. Like, and shooting is a very like it's a specific skill. Like not everybody just shoots. Like, even I mean, yeah. So they took it, and tactical games is very much like it's it's the elevated heart rate from like moving heavy things or moving, and then you have to like focus and calm to make your shots. So they kind of took it. It started out great. It was like, we had these 3 different heavy carries, drags. Well, and in between each one, you have to go over to the gun. You have to, however many shots you're supposed to take, make sure everything's like all the safety precautions are taken, like put the safety on, make sure to take the magazine out. So it went from that, like very much like high intensity to shooting. They did that 3, and then they ended it with a mile-long, like 70-pound ruck, which against, of course, throws it right back into the cardio people's field. Like it kind of, the guys can take, 3, 4, I mean, up to like 7 minutes longer on the shooting portion, and then on the run, they'll make up all their time on the run. I mean, the fastest runs were like, I think 10 minutes something, and the slowest runs were like 20 minutes. Like the amount of difference you can have from there, where it just comes down to, can you move, like, your cardio endurance, some strength, but mostly cardio. So that was a little bit like, if they'd even done like a half-mile run, a quarter-mile run, like that would have been cool. But it was a ruck, I guess, a ruck. But throwing that in there, it was like, oh, so the shooting, like it has some weight, like it sort of matters, but it still just comes down to what your cardio engine. So that one, especially, we had a tactical games athlete there, and he was after we fought them on the penalties, he was less disappointed, but it was still a pretty disappointing, like to introduce something brand new that some people actually have skill in and some have zero skill in, and then to just turn it into a cardio event again.
So you think it would have been fair had the last piece been a shorter run? I thought you were saying it wasn't fair because this guy's shot before and none of the rest of you have.
No, and that's fair. Like some people have wrestled, some people never have. Some people have run a half marathon, some people never have. No, it was that last piece being that long endurance cardio thing that kind of screwed it over. Like we had talked about, if they had even done the stations, like 2 rounds all the way through, the heavy carries, the shooting, like kept it something like high intensity, and then having to calm yourself to make your shots. But then it ends with that ruck, and it's like, oh, well, if you can just run fast, you can go as slow as you want on the shooting, either to be precise or get a bunch of penalties for missing, and then just run fast, and you're golden,
Yeah, so this does seem to be, I think, the thing with Spartan is, and I get that it's new and things are on the fly, but that they don't like ask for input. I think they come up with ideas, and then in reality it doesn't work, and they're kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
maybe
and
work with more, maybe work with
varied,
athletes to sort of figure that out. And listen,
yeah,
I know like Yancey's awesome, like Morris is awesome, like these are very talented people,
yeah,
but sometimes you're in your own bubble. I mean, let's look at
yeah,
the fucking half hour Telluride thing, right? Like
yeah,
if they just sat for 1 minute and talked to a couple other people and been like, guys, maybe this is a bit much, right?
yeah.
So that's kind of how I hear what you're saying, is that they just kind of don't, they just don't seem to like, because I get it. Like I've come up with something's a great idea, and then a third party goes, well, have you thought about this? Oh shit, no, we forgot about that. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
they're human.
I think they're just so entrenched in the endurance world. Like, I don't think they have any kind of concept of a shorter intensity style of workout. Like, and again, like like you said, like they're great people. I don't think they're like trying to, but they just have like, and I've seen it before where, well, 20 minutes, that's short. No, that's still an endurance event. Like short is 5 minutes, 6 minutes, like something that's actually going to be high intensity, short focused. And that's, I just don't think
Right, like a 400-meter
it
run
just,
is like that's short.
yeah, a 400-meter run or like a 5-minute workout, like even, I mean, the DECA heavy was supposed to be for the strength athletes, but it took, anywhere from like basically 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. And that's still an endurance event, as much as it's okay, it's heavy things. It's not just a strength workout, it's an endurance workout. Which, I mean, that makes everything well rounded, but then there's things where, running is like pretty much strictly endurance. Like if you can't, so I think it was heavily slanted toward the endurance side, but I think it's just because they're so, like, that's all they, like, they have no understanding of, and I don't really have an understanding of a, shorter, more intense style of anything.
You don't, when you say you don't.
No, like to me, I mean, I'm pretty much endurance. Like I've never done anything short or intense. So, but talking to the other athletes and really thinking about it, it's like, wow, like, yeah, this is it's all endurance. And it works for somebody like me, but for people that are all about like strength and power, doesn't go well.
Yeah, I think so. Last year, if we were looking at basically Hunter, like Hunter versus Ryan, Lindsay versus Corinna, it was like, okay, how many events favor the other person? And the gap in the endurance was wider than the gap in strength, essentially. Like there wasn't anybody even to compete like with, right? Like there's like, oh, none of
Yeah.
the, like Mike Wardian can't lift anything, right? And like these other athletes that were great athletes, like maybe they did okay like on the bike or whatever, but they certainly weren't going to make up any points in the strength. So it's kind of like where that
Yeah.
like it's kind of like where the CrossFit Games is. It's not just how good somebody is, it's how many people can you get between that person to give the other person some points. So
Right.
are you saying it was similar that way, that it at the end of the day was still almost all endurance based and not enough? I mean, because I saw you guys lifting those fucking heavy, weird looking things, and it looked, and then you're doing those wall balls, and it looked like there was some strength based things.
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely some strength based things. But I think it was heavily slanted towards the endurance still.
But that's good for
And
you. That's good for Kris.
yeah, yep, good for Kris. Kris is happy. It definitely, and then even the ones that they tried to make strong and heavy were still slanted more towards endurance. But I think they probably did better than last year at having some more like balanced events. Yeah, I would say it's definitely getting better, but there's always room for growth.
What did you like the best?
I liked the mountain bike the best. I loved the mountain bike. Like, I'm a pretty happy person. Like, I'm pretty happy to be alive. I like to compete. I like to do everything. But like, the mountain bike, it was 3.3 mile loops kind of around the top of the mountain. So just kind of going around the top where it started with a little bit of downhill, you had a little bit of climbing. I think they said it was like just over 2,000 feet of total climbing. But after those 3.3 mile loops, then they sent you straight down the mountain I think it was like 4 miles of downhill. It's been a long time since I've smiled that big and just been like,
I had no idea.
so happy to be alive.
I had no idea it was that long. I knew it was a straight downhill.
Yeah.
I had 4 miles of straight downhill.
3 to 4 miles. Yeah. I mean, it was like a green, a ski, a green ski path or whatever. I guess maybe just green is the rating. So it was like, all twisty turny, nothing crazy where like you're going to break your neck, but it was just like smooth downhill bike riding and the views were amazing. Like it was just fantastic. I had so much fun on that.
Would you say non-technical?
Very non-technical. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The entire thing. There was, they finally got it right. There was a little bit of, it was very, I would say
I was hoping you would pick up on that.
Yes. I think they even said in the the event overview, they were like, it's non-technical. We promise this time, or something like that. They
Right.
made should emphasize it's definitely not technical. No, it was perfect.
And what did you not like? You're a very happy gal, Kris, but what if you had to rank them? Something has to be the bottom of the 8 events.
I did not like swimming in the cold.
Oof.
I hated that to 100%. I kind of have like a lot of water phobia anyways. Like I'm not a big fan of water in general. And I think the air temperature was like, it kind of went, the clouds would come through, so it'd get colder. It went between like 30 to 35 degrees like that whole morning. But they were like, good news is the water temperature hasn't dropped yet. The water temperature was still at like 49 degrees. It was cold. It was absolutely terrible. And it was funny too, because that was the day that had the worst weather. And we were kind of like, are they going to switch it to a different day? Like, surely they can change something up. But no, we went ahead and did it.
Yeah, I noticed the next day the sun was out, and I was like, "Oh man, I feel
Yeah.
so bad." If only, I mean, it looked so. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff, you know what I mean, and I gotta say, like, because my very first Tough Mudder, it was 28 degrees when we woke up, and
Yeah.
all I could think about was we're gonna be going into Arctic enema in this first mile. Like, how am I ever gonna do
Yeah.
this? And so I
Yeah.
like but that was, I'm in and out of that thing in probably 3 seconds. You guys had to
Yeah.
swim underwater.
It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Yeah.
How would you
As
describe how your head felt coming out of that?
um like headspace or like physically,
Like
because I
physically.
couldn't I couldn't feel anything. Within like 20 seconds, my feet basically went numb. Or like I couldn't really feel my feet. Um, couldn't feel my hands. I had a really hard time putting my head underwater during the surface swim. I kept it above water most of the time because there's no visibility anyways. And then putting it underwater is like you're just freezing over and over again. Um, the 25-meter swim, they, yeah, I think they kind of made some allowances. So this was like supposed to be the official Air Force pass test, or no guts, no glory. They were trying to change the name of it. For the 25-meter the 25-meter underwater swim, it's supposed to be like the Air Force would normally do it in a pool. Not sure if you can push off the edge or not, but 25 meters, like that's substantial distance to cover completely underwater. Well, this time we're out in the lake, just swimming from like one stake with a flag on it to another stake with a flag on it, nothing to push off of. And then the problem they ended up having was the visibility was so bad. The whole lake is probably like 3 or 4 feet deep or something. At least the whole area we were in. Like it was a very shallow lake in general. Um, but the issue they had was the visibility. They were like, they kind of realized like people are going to get lost if we just have them like trying to swim from one stake to another. So they had a string tied from one to the next, and they let us go ahead mainly so we wouldn't get lost. Also, you're supposed to be entirely underwater, but all of us had our wetsuits on, which
So we're all
wetsuits kind of
floating.
like,
Right.
yeah, pretty much. Anyways, basically what they had us do was like grab the rope and keep your head underwater, and you basically just had to pull it along all the way to the other side. It's terrible. We had to do it twice, and it was terrible both times.
I'm guessing I'm guessing it just looks better than like, hey, let's do it outside. Is a lot cooler than doing it in the
Oh
pool.
yeah,
And they
yeah,
weren't expecting those brutal days, but then again that will make for good camera.
yep. I'm sure it would make for great camera. I think they had an issue finding a pool around there. The closest pool
Oh,
was like
because of COVID
hours away.
probably. Maybe because of COVID?
Maybe that, and maybe just because they're on the top of a mountain. Maybe both. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, and they didn't want to go all the way into LA like
Yeah.
like you guys did for the gun thing. So when you say do it
Yeah.
twice, you mean you had to get out and do it again, do the test
No.
again?
You have to swim underwater for 25 meters twice. So the official rules is like underwater swim 25 minutes. You have 3 minutes to return to your starting point, and then you have to go again. So they kind of like it's supposed to be all timed. And then from there, you're supposed to wait 10 minutes, like your transition time, and then you go do the 500-meter surface swim. But they said, if everybody agrees you want to just go right into the swim, we can go right into the swim. Everyone's
Just
like,
to be
yes,
just
get
to be
us out of here as
right.
soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah. Getting out was almost worse than getting in. Like I had to like in the middle after we like waited out there, we were like getting ready to do the 25-meter swims. Like everybody's just like sitting there shaking and shivering. Some people were like dipping their heads in to kind of like try to get used to the water temperature. But I kind of had to like take a second to kind of like look around and like, okay, like this is technically kind of cool. We're out here. It's really pretty. Like even though it's freezing cold, I was able to like breathe. And I think that helped on the 25 meters. But once we went into the swim, it was like, just get this over with as soon as possible. And then coming out, they said they were going to have a warming tent for us, and they didn't. It was just like they had some blankets and some hot water in this little like bus stop area. And then we had our vans, and that was pretty much, we had to pull the wetsuits off. I pulled mine off outside the van, and then you have to like get inside and get clothes on as soon as possible. But getting the wetsuit off was terrible. My calf cramped up so badly. I was like, I'm going to die. It sucked because you're just like in a hurry, like get it over with. And those wetsuits are not very easy to get off.
Did you enjoy that video? I got my coffee. I hope you did. Thanks so much to Kris Rugloski. I'll keep saying that to you guys and get it right. For joining me on that video. Don't forget, you can check out Corinna's video that I put up yesterday. Atkins is coming, a bunch more athletes are coming. I'll let you know when I get them on the horn. But also, I got a quick question for you. Are you enjoying this channel? Are you enjoying the content you see here on probably the greatest obstacle racing media channel there is? I mean, it's right in our name, Obstacle Racing Media. If you are, you can support it with a couple bucks, a few dollars a month, or you can just give for the whole year. And then you save a couple dollars, but get the same amazing bennies, as we say. That's benefits, not Benny Gifford. But the benefits include being part of our Discord, being part of our Strava Club, being part of our Secret Santa, which will be coming up, or Secret Hanukkah Harry, whatever you might celebrate. But do me a favor, join that Patreon. You've thought about it for a lot. It's in the thing. It's in the links below, right? Click below. It's in those links. And even if you don't, just for watching, just for taking the time to watch this, I appreciate you. Know it. Know I appreciate you. Love you. Miss you. Mean it. I gotta run!